we're in a position here where Paul Maskell brought out the people side of things very importantly, and the way people can be manipulated. And I've written a couple of pieces on hacking your serotonin, because it's very easy to manipulate people. But people are key to everything that we do. And it's the people aspect of providing security and how we get the best out of our people from a business perspective, from a professional perspective, and survive the embuggeration that tends to come in from the regulator's perspective, and everything else that we want to discuss here today. Because looking at it, the measurement of success from a security perspective is nothing happens. So trying to take that onto a board and convince the board that security is a necessity and it's going to provide some form of enhancement to our business approach is a real challenge. And our panelists today, I think, are perfect for doing that, because we've got the customer, we've got the provider, and we've got the regulator who mandates certain things. And we're in a sea change area. So we'll explore that relationship between providing security and business. And from my perspective, I'm increasingly of the mind that security leaders must be at the top of the tree when you're working into organizations, must be business-minded first and foremost, and security-minded second, because security needs to be seen as a business enabler, not a business cost. So, from that perspective, the best person to start with really is Dan, because you've got responsibilities for the newest venue that is now open, I believe.
Yeah, fully.
And working through. And how is it that you convince people that you are adding value from a business perspective rather than being a cost?
I think you did sum it up. Like, the people as an element in security make up the fundamental bits that we see. They're the first people we see, and generally the last people we see. When we're trying to promote that at a senior level, we have to really focus on the added value. What do these companies bring to us? What's their reputation? How can we tap into that? And it's a term I use quite a lot, but it's unquantifiable how many incidents we stop. And when you say that, if an event that we get to the end of the night and we get to a debrief and we go, how many incidents have we had? We go 0. It's very rare that people go, that was a perfect event. So using the contractors and kind of tapping into their expertise and understanding how we can best use them is a relationship. It's a two-way relationship. And in order to pass that back up, we've got to understand what that company offers for us.
But do you find that those that are responsible for the overall business understand that you're not just mitigating a risk through something that has to be there just in case, you're actually providing a capability and you're contracting in a capability that adds business value? I'll come straight into Alan on that afterwards, but the challenge is yours, Dan, as in the security role in the business, saying you need to spend this money.
Yeah, and I think one of my notes was that a lot of the time when we do go out to contractors are very unaware of how hard as managers within a venue we've had to work to get the sign-off for that budget, to understand that the plans, the processing, the requirement, the level of detail we've had to prove to the senior levels that this is actually a requirement. It's not a luxury. We need this in order to keep this venue running safe, secure, to keep bringing people back to our venue. And the senior level of leadership are always got a different eye on it than us. I always say, bring it back down to operational level. What does it mean to the operation? Because I think we've touched on it a number of times today, the second you add the word safety, it gets value. The second you add security, people just start to go, ooh, could we just nip that away? So I think it is a challenge, and I don't think it's going to go away.
So Alan, you're trying to contract in, how do you convince your customer that you are there not just providing a service, and that you can justify a sensible budget for giving the capability that you believe is needed? And is this something that you find that customers actually properly understand?
That's a big challenge, if I'm to be perfectly frank. You know, the trying to sell a service or put forward your kind of solution for security within the current marketplace is extremely challenging, and that's challenging for a number of reasons. And the first one is the commoditization of the marketplace. You know, the downward pressure from the buyers within the marketplace is really extreme, and that really kind of changes the emphasis. So you've got a buying organisation that are procurement professionals that are coming from a completely different space when it comes to managing or providing a service like security. So that's the first obstacle that we have to overcome, is getting them to understand the value of security and how that can manifest itself either through the service that you provide, whether that's the service in terms of risk and safety, or whether that's the service to their own frontline customers. There are various ways that we can demonstrate that. And then the second challenge is kind of the same thing, but a lack of an intelligent client, someone that really understands what security is about, and that's again extremely frustrating. So what we typically find is that it's a race to the bottom line. And that, for me, starts to drive all of the wrong behaviours, and it starts to effectively promote the things that we really need to move away from. In my mind, if the industry is to be successful and sustainable in the future, it's about the professionalisation of this industry, particularly when it comes to the frontline security officers. So that's investment in training and development. It's the right remuneration. You know, why have we got customers out there, and I'm talking about big customers, some procuring security contracts in excess of 20 million a year, insisting on minimum wage? Why? What do you expect? You know, we've seen many examples where, you know, if you do invest and you get that investment right, both in wages, in training and development, and the infrastructure that surrounds a security solution, we know that you reap the benefits of that. And we also know from recent surveys, there was a survey by IFSEC Global across a number of businesses, and they found that, you know, 60% of businesses experience severe security issues or problems with their providers because they were not investing in the development of their people. And I think that, for me, is one of the biggest frustrations. You know, how do we get that right?
So how much of that frustration, or how much flexibility, is either enabled or disabled by the regulatory framework that you're having to operate in? And you know, this will be the bridge for me to then come into you, Michelle, so we can explore that in a little bit more detail.
That's a good question. I'm not sure that there's much that you can do to influence the way that people behave in terms of purchasing. But I think the role that you have is how we can evolve the role of, or how we can evolve the industry to, as I said, that really kind of professional status. Because unfortunately, you know, there is still a perception within the marketplace that being a security officer, you know, is you know, in some cases not even considered comparable to a cleaner. And I'm being deadly serious. And yet these are individuals that are protecting assets, people and infrastructure. You know, and I just find it a little bit distasteful and a little bit unacceptable that we're at that point where we have to justify the fact that they're getting paid £11.44 an hour. I mean, you know, what world are we living in? You know, if we really want to take a step forward, I think it's around you know, a serious look at how we really transform the development of officers, and then how that's translated and positioned in the marketplace. And
Michelle, you know, the SIA provides a mandatory standard. It's the only government-backed bit in the physical security environment that has got, you know, any teeth whatsoever. But in mandating what you do from a training perspective, vetting perspective, and everything else, you're putting a cost onto the provider that is not being paid by the end user. how's the SIA developing and recognising this? And what do you think we should be doing to try and convince people that we need to get away from this minimum wage perspective from a security provision?
So Philip, the first thing I'd say is we're not going to apologise for baseline regulation which protects public safety, because ultimately the job of private security is to intervene and to prevent harm. So we're not going to apologise for that. And I think, in a grown-up conversation, responsible buyers need to realise that that's part of what they're paying for. But I think where I'd like to move the conversation on, and I think there is some things that we can do about brokering the conversation about what is a responsible buyer of security. I absolutely, wholeheartedly agree that it should not be regarded as a pure compliance function or something where actually the only thing that matters if you're in facilities looking at which is the tender you're going to go with is baseline bottom line cost. So I think what we need to do is start having that conversation about what is a responsible buyer of security, how can security enhance prevention, detection. I was out last week with 2 different sets of security providers. One of them had talked about, and this was the buyer who was on site with me, with the company, talked about the knock-on benefit that it had from having visible security all over that site, very porous site with lots of different entrances and exits, and crime had come down in the wider area, and the policing partnership was working in relation to that. And of course, Martin's Law is going to be coming down. The government has committed to it. It's going to be coming down the road. And I think that's an opportunity for security companies, for buyers, for those who will be affected by it, to have that conversation about how do you choose responsible, professional, added value security to help the buyers and the venue owners discharge their duty.
We've heard from several speakers this morning how when you start talking health and safety, people get it and immediately sit up and start to do stuff. Do you think, from a regulator's perspective, Martin's Law is going to give that level of legislative backing to minimum requirements? And the sad thing here is we're talking about minimum requirements across the board with everything. But give that understanding that means that the board that is he's fighting with to get the funding down is going to sit up and suddenly go, right, how do I stop myself being thrown in the nick?
So I don't know what Martin's Law is going to look like. We've got to wait to see what's
yes.
published later on this year. But I think, as I say, it provides an opportunity to start sketching out and having that conversation about what is the essential minimum, what is actually expectation above that, and what does good practice look like to help buyers and those that are affected by the duty, but also the security companies and the individuals that are doing the hard work on the ground to make sure that they're valued and recognised, and their role that they're playing is actually valued and recognised as well for what it is as professional security.
So Alan, do you think it would make your job easier when it comes to convincing the board to give you more money to provide that capability that they're insisting on, that safety and security, if security gets the same sort of legislative underpinning that safety has got?
You would like to think so, but I'm a little bit cautious that might not be the case. I think what we might see is a discharge of an attempt to discharge the responsibilities at the client level through their supply chain. I think that's what we'll see. I think they'll flow down some of those requirements and put the obligation on the security company to provide or comply with those requirements, and try their best to, although they won't be able to, try their best to slightly distance themselves and go, well, it's their job. That's what they want. That's what they need to do. Because again, it comes back to the level of competency and experience they've got within their own organisation to be able to actually manage those regulatory requirements. And I think that's going to be a challenge for some organisations. I mean, we see it today. You know, I'm sure we all do. You know, we face off and match up to client organisations, and sometimes you think, well, do you actually understand what you're talking about? And you know, I mean, that's not. I'm not being disrespectful to everybody, because there's some very, very good people out there who've got good experience. But conversely, there's also organisations that really do not have that security mindset, or have people within their organisation that have come from, you know, a similar type of background, whether that be, you know, from the military, the police, or whatever the case.
Yeah, so Dan, you've heard the issues that are coming out from here. Does this make your role easier or more difficult?
I think like as within a venue, it's our job to break that down, take that element of service that we want to get and demonstrate how that benefits our organisation. Because primarily the general manager that walks through the door each day will see one member of staff who searches them, says good morning, and if that's a great experience, that could be the difference between that member of staff thinking, well, we're doing a great job, and then when I sit down with them to ask for another member of staff going, oh yeah, do you know, actually, yeah, I can see the benefit in that. Or if that's a negative experience, that then having the adverse effect. And I think as an organisation with a building to look after, we have to take ownership of that. We have to invest in the people that are brought in for us. It's not a one-way street in terms of, you know, you deliver the staff, we expect that to be completely on you, or at least I don't personally. I think that integration of staff into our building, and I tried to say, welcome to the Co-op family, you're part of the family. Yes, you are a contractor, but I want pure integration. I want you to take ownership. I want you to feel valued. I want you to come to work and go, hey, that didn't look right. And it didn't look right because I care about what I do and I noticed it. And I think that by running it from a cultural point of view, top to bottom, then when we do bring in partners, they buy into that. They feel that. The staff feel that. We are not the end user. I might write the plan, we might develop the plan, but the staff are the end user. They are the people who can come back to us and go, hey, do you know what? You've given me this SOP, but unfortunately, every fifth person who comes through, actually, it causes us a problem because it backs up. And having that level of ability to be challenged and then challenging them to challenge us, because that's how we make those processes better. That's how we get our value for our money. If we just say, do this, and that's the end of it, we don't benefit from that.
Now, we're talking about people, but we've heard an awful lot today about technology and how technology is coming in. Are you under pressure to reduce the budget on the people that you've got by bringing in additional technologies? And how do you balance that off? This is something that I'll hit the rest of you with.
I personally am not. Our integrated systems are second to none, and they work in conjunction with. They are not standalone systems. You need both elements to run it. AI is fantastic, but it still needs a human there. You know, AI cannot go out and go, hi, is everything okay? You know where you're going. And I think you have to understand that it's we say, it's been said a number of times, people. Like, we need those people. AI is a great tool. We've got it in our building. It's an unbelievable system that we've got, and we are trying to push it as much as we can, but inevitably it's the people that we need.
A scary future. I'll just throw it out there before I come to Alan. But I've actually interviewed a security robot that goes around a shopping mall and asks people that are wandering around, "Are you okay? Can I help? Can I do this?" And provides a lot of that input, and has got a suite of surveillance systems built in that, when linked into the network, has raised a few eyebrows. But from a provider's perspective, how much are you seeing that there's pressure from different organisations on technological solutions to try and reduce the human requirements and reduce costs?
100%. Yeah, the fusion of technology with physical security is at the forefront of everything that we're doing now, and it has been for quite some time, to be perfectly frank. And I think it has a role to play, absolutely. You know, I think that one of the biggest challenges is keeping pace with technology, because the minute you've developed an idea or a solution and you've implemented it, it's pretty much been overtaken. But technology has a huge part to play now in the future of security. So some examples of that, private mobile radio. When we first launched the private mobile radio 5-6 years ago now, it's just been launched in the marketplace, but having a single device that acts as a radio, that can work off of Wi-Fi, work off of the internet, that allows you to do proof of presence patrolling, gives you man-down capability, gives you panic alarm systems. I mean, the list is endless. You know, trying to avoid everyone looking like Batman, you know, with the utility belt on. But absolutely, the fusion of technology, particularly the way technology is evolving, and AI is a huge part of what we're doing, and in some cases is being used as part of the solution cell. So, you know, where you're coming up against a very, very stringent commoditized procurement team, and sometimes it's those type of solutions that unlock some of those challenges. You know, the fact that you know, by using technology smartly, you can reduce, in some cases, the reliance on physical security, and you can improve the effect that you're achieving at the end of it.
But how much of a challenge, and Michelle, I'll talk to you about this from a regulator's perspective where you're mandating standards, but how much, before I come to you, how much is it a challenge whenever you're getting people in this minimum wage mindset where actually you're requiring people to have many more skills and technical skills to be able to understand how to get in and integrate their people skills with their technology skills to provide the outputs that you need to sell to him?
Well, it's an interesting question because we've got a bit of a dilemma, because on the one hand we've got kind of, you know, we've got an aging workforce and trying to get them to, you know, adapt and use technology is probably slightly more difficult. But on the other hand, it's actually quite exciting, because if we're to move forward in the industry, then we need new talent. We need people across the board. And one of the things that we find is the demographic of the people that we want to attract, technology is what they're all about now. You know, they actually thrive on the use of technology. They want to work for organizations that have technology as the heartbeat of their organization. So it's kind of a bit of a dilemma. You know, on the one hand, you've got a challenge because of your existing workforce, but on the other hand, it's quite exciting because bringing these, you know, people into the industry that haven't worked in the industry before, we can achieve that by embracing technology and using technology more frequently.
So, Michelle, last words to you. How is the regulator? What are you doing to look to the future, to all of the changes that are coming in from the technological perspective, from the human perspective, and to try and help enable people who are the customers of security, who are buying the capability in, to get away from this minimum wage mindset?
Gosh, there's a lot in that. In terms of, you're right, we need to be agile as a regulator in the same way as the industry and businesses and venues need to be agile as things like AI and technology come in. I don't think it will ever eliminate the need for physical security. I think it's about training and investing in our people in order to how to use the technological advantages. If you think of someone in a CCTV control room, they're full of technology. I might challenge a little bit that someone who is more aged can't operate technology. My father's quite good on his apps. But I get your point. I get your point. So we've got to be agile. We've got to look to the future, and that's not just what's on the plate now. There will be things coming down that will challenge us, both as the industry, the venues, and the regulator. And I think that's where partnership, although we all have our respective roles that need to be respected, and we all need to stand up as leaders and to deliver on what we are charged with, but I think there's an opportunity for partnership working as well.
Well, partnership working on that note. Thank you very much indeed, panel, for your input.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're around for the rest of the day if anyone's got any questions. We're back to Rick.
Question, actually, I think it would be remiss not to mention the SIA's business approval consultation, and I just wondered, Michelle, if you could summarise what the key learning outcomes from the consultation, which I think had about 400 respondents, right? What are you taking away for the future of ACS?
Thank you. So if you haven't seen it, we've published our response to the public consultation on what does basically ACS for the future approved contractor scheme look like. Slightly delayed because of PERDA and the election. Broadly speaking, there is support from most quarters. A lot of ACS companies replied, but we also deliberately went public to get companies' views who are not in the ACS scheme at the moment around it. We also have got views from membership bodies and the public. Broad support, a little bit of nervousness around a few of those areas, but now we restock and we go and design that next piece. Everyone, I think, the main message I would give is the fundamental reset that it has to be grounded in public protection for the future was supported, and that does mean some change in terms of what the rules are, how it's inspected, and how the public can have confidence. And this links to Martin's Law, actually, about how you can have confidence that a company that you choose is not just working to minimum standards, but they're excellent. They're striving for more. So watch that space. We have promised another public consultation after the next phase.
And how do people get access to the output?
On gov.uk, sia.gov.uk, on our website. There's a short version, if that's all you want to read, or you can read all the detailed version.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Rick, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you.